We're getting down to it. The NFL draft is upon us, and we're having our last couple of Sunday night mock lives to give you the mock draft that you're looking for and run down another scenario in which we can get some information about the way the Chiefs are going to go. Tonight, we're going to have a great one, and it's going to be about trying to go get guys that make impact. Impact's a tough one, so if you want a definition, I have a couple here. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. Become part of this community. You members know that. It's Saturday evening as I record this to get it ready for you for Sunday. I've got a new piece coming up in the members only view. Go check that out because it's about Rashee Rice and where I think this is going, where I'm at on it right now. Not for public consumption. It's not going to be the prettiest of informations. Get in there. If you want to get that kind of stuff, it's in the members only. Join the rookies or above. The join buttons over here underneath, and you can get there. You also get access to the Discord Rogue Nation, as well as discounts on the gear, including our newest product. You can get a discount right now on the draft guide. We have it done from Rogue Analytics. Dan and I still have a couple of prospects we're putting in there. Version 1 is out, and version 2 will be out very shortly. We're going to use this a little bit of our basis tonight to get familiar and give you a rundown of what it looks like in the draft guide as we get ready for our mock draft. And this is one where I want to go up and I want to try to target some player that we think fits. And Dan and I have our grades along with film, analytics on all the production, as well as my athletic matrix. It all goes into our master list and our master rankings. And this is the guide's rankings. Over on NFL 33, you're going to get our individual top rankings, maybe top 5s, maybe top 10s, depending on how we roll it out here in the coming weeks to the draft. That'll be Dan and I, maybe EJ, our personal rankings. This is our consensus rankings. That's the way that this comes out with the film grades that we individually do on top of the production and the athleticism metrics. Now, I'm going to reduce this a little bit so you guys can get a good look at it, because this is really what brings us apart is we do this work for you. This is our work. This is the 2024 guide. You're going to be able to see that there are a lot of versions of it. It goes back quite a ways. You can see all the position groups that I run, that Jeff does. If you haven't met Jeff on the Friday draft series, make sure you get over there and check that out. Obviously, Dan does the bulk of the draft film work with me. And then EJ Holt, our newest senior analyst, does all the secondary for us because that's his big purview, a guy that is very experienced in that realm. We get through all of our special metrics, and it comes down to our overall rankings. You can see here the quarterbacks. We're not really going to look at quarterbacks as we tack down here. We're trying to get to the positions that make sense. And overall, we have Rome Odunze as our wide receiver number 1 when it's all said and done. Now, that's influenced heavily by the fact that Marvin Harrison chose not to participate in anything in the pre-draft process. So his matrix score is very, very low. In the end, we have him ranked number 1 in film and Odunze number 2 in film, with Malik Neighbors coming in at 3 and Worthy just behind him at 4, tied with Keon Coleman. So you can get all this in the draft guide. I know that's hard to make out here on the screen because the PDF is much, much more legible. But what I want to emphasize is at the end of the day, we get down to all these special metrics, the profiles on every single quarterback, running back, tailback, everything that you can think of, we get to. And it comes down to different guys that we're going to see, whether it's Ricky Pearsall, maybe it's Jalen McMillan, that could have an influence. And then when we get back all that, we're going to get down to the offensive linemen. And what we do here, O-linemen as the group that they are, once it stops scrolling, excuse us here, trying to get it to settle down there. We're having a little bit of feedback, but eventually it will settle down. And what it's going to give you is rankings that, in the end, give us the basis for what we're trying to get done in this mock draft that we are about to start. And it comes down to these offensive linemen. Drew Alt's at the top of our list. Not a whole lot of surprise there, I'm sure, but he's also going to be at the top of our list over here on the mock draft. We're going to get rolling here as we take a look. And again, if you use the code RGR, you're going to get a discount on the draft guide as well as the athletic matrix that is available as well at Rogue APC. You can get over there really, really easily by just going to the main site, which if I pop it up here, can show you. It's in the explanation below. It's down in everywhere on my social as well. You can get there and get yourself this draft guide. That's what we're looking at to get through here. Now I've set this up and we're about to take a look, and I've got it to go slow tonight so that we can get a look at the positions that get taken as we run down. Drake, then Malik. Obviously, Joel's the first tackle off the board in this scenario, where it's the top two quarterbacks. They are the top two quarterbacks for us as well. And so we agree on that. And I do like that when we happen to come together. What we end up doing is getting 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks gone. Wide receivers go 1, 2, 3, not necessarily in our order, but in an order. And then Joel goes off the board. Brock Bowers getting the respect that he deserves here at 8. I do think he is ahead of a lot of the second-tier receivers that we can see here that have not been selected to this point. And then we get J.C. Latham. I think that's a little high for him, as I don't think he's the second tackle off the board, but that's what's happening now. We're in a situation where the Jets are on the clock at 10, and we have to start thinking about where do we need to get up for who we're looking for. I'll tell you that what I see on my list is very much that I'm looking to get a guy that can be a little bit of everything. I like 5-position versatility. I think the Chiefs do too. It comes down to just how do you get that? Do you need to spend a first-round pick, or are you comfortable coming back with a third-round pick? Something like that. I personally feel that it's worth the investment to get up there and get it done. I'm not sure that the Chiefs agree. And as I try to bring up all those position groups, what we end up doing is a guy that I like is Troy Fautanu. And I think that he's not worth necessarily having to go target overall, but he's my number 3 tackle. That's the way that it worked out. We had a tie in our actual film grade for Fashanu and Joel. You could flip them. There's preferences. I understand that. I still think Joel goes number 1, but we have Fautanu number 3. He is 10 in the athletic matrix out of all the groups, including the guards and centers who had a really good athleticism outing this time. And so he's kind of the guy that not only do Dan and I both really like, but we think that he gives the Chiefs what they need. He can compete at left tackle. He can compete at filling at left guard for Joe Tooney. In the meantime, in the future, he could play 5 positions for you. And so he's a guy that I have at the back of my mind right now that we really like. We also had Graham Barton with a third tie there as a guy just behind him. Doesn't have the versatility, in my opinion, or Dan's, that we think he needs to. But where would we have to get to our guy? The scenario that we're going to run is we're going to give up the next third, the third that we got for L'Jarius Sneed in order to move up. I don't think that the Vikings are going to be willing to do that. That makes perfect sense. They have a lot going here. If we let this draft go a little bit more, we might have a better option there. We're going to have to let a few more picks come off the board, and that's where I start to get a little bit nervous. I don't think the Jets or anybody really in the AFC is going to trade with you until you get down to like maybe Pittsburgh. But the Pittsburgh draft pick is not one that I'm super keen on, because I don't think that it really does the trick. I don't think it gets it done for the Chiefs. So we could look at the Saints and see if we can get up there. They're not interested yet. We could look at the Seahawks. They're not interested. I think the Rams are probably our best bet, and they're still not terribly interested. If I bumped it up with an extra, we could get into something like that where we could move and get up to 19. And that's what I think we're going to have to presume here. We're going to let a few more come off the clock so we can see them. And Fuaga goes. Brian Thomas goes. He's a wide receiver option there. There's more wide receivers available in this first round and the second round than there are tight ends. Offensive tackles. And so as much as I think that has to be the precursor, I do agree that we have to make the most of our opportunities. And if that means that we have to forego a first-round wide receiver, then that's what we're going to have to do. I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger, help everybody's visual out. There we go. And so you see J.C. Latham went off second tackle. Fuaga comes off at 13. Brian Thomas goes, and I do like his fit in here. I'm a little bit higher on him than Dan is. And I'm still looking to go up. The Seahawks are on the clock right now, and that's why I wanted to stop it. If I offer them a third to go with our first, are they even interested? Evidently not. Even with both third-round picks, would they be interested? So it tells me that they probably need to go for the quarterback that I think that they're going to be looking for. The thing changes here with the Rams. If we get into 159, 173, I think we can get one of those done. And we can trade up to 19. That's what I'm looking to do. And I don't mind giving up the 159 pick right here because we do have some fish to fry. The question is, do we still have our guy in 3 picks? And that's going to be the hard part. So I'm thinking that if the Seahawks won't trade with us, and the best bet that we have is the Rams, we're going to have to take a chance that our guy goes in the next 2 picks because I don't think we can go up and force Seattle into a trade by doing anything more than giving them a second rounder next year. And I'm not sure that I'm ready to do that. I think what it has to be is a third rounder to get value. And I think that means it has to be the Rams. So let's see what happens in the next pick or two. And he does unfortunately go at 17 to the Jags. I didn't expect that. I'm going to let one more go. And they take Fashanu. So in this situation, we weren't going to get to where we needed to be in the first place. And our chances have actually stayed exactly the same. What does that leave us? Well, it leaves us the option. As you can see, Brian Thomas is off the board. A lot of the wide receivers are still available. So I do still think that there is some thought in going up that makes sense. And whether that's Donnie Mitchell, whether that's somebody else, we can take a shot at letting it come through and see if that works. Sometimes we do see that happen, or we can go up and try to make a stab at it. And right now with the tackles off the board, I'm thinking that we just let this go and we see what happens. DeJean goes, Wiggins goes, Barton goes. We see Newman goes high. I don't believe that is the likelihood here. And so despite trying to trade up, what we've come to is that we have 2 players here at the very top of the list that I think can fit in Kansas City and get something done. Donnie Mitchell, Adonai, however you pronounce his name, I'm not sure which is correct. A lot of folks in Kansas City want him, and I think it is a good addition. I think it would be a fit. Is he the all-around player that a lot think he is? I'm not certain of that. We have some lower down wide receivers later. Potential here of Tyler Guyton. He's the last of the top-tier tackles. We do like Jordan Morgan as an inside guy. We do like Kingsley Suamataia as the tackle to be in the second tier that we really like. Dan's done a lot of good work on him. We do like him as a potential option, but that would be in a trade down a little bit. He might be the guy that's available there. Kieran, I've got film on him. I've started the process. My grade is not as high as this. I have him as a third rounder at this point. I think the level of competition from what we see on film is definitely exaggerating what he's able to do. And I think the jump to the NFL is going to be a little bit tougher. My guy Polk is on here as a second round pick that we could get to. So it really comes down to me is, do we take one of these 2 guys or do we take a chance on trading back? And I would rather in this scenario get kind of the done deal. So I think Tyler Guyton becomes a Kansas City Chiefs unless Donnie Mitchell, there's probably more option there. How far could we trade back? 41's our best offer. I'm not going back 10 picks. So the question becomes right now, what do you need more? With Rasheed in his current situation, I think Mitchell might be more important. So we're going to grab him. We'll switch it up and we'll see what we have to do to maybe trade back up and maybe get our guy. Guyton went. Suamataia is going to be the next guy that we would like to see. And would Tennessee trade with us? Probably not. The Carolina Panthers might. If we give them a pick, they're not interested in trading back that far, though. Are the Packers? 17% chance. Falcons might be the spot. Nope, not enough. So even throwing in a third next year, they're not really interested in moving around that much. And these trades have moved quite a bit. We're going to let a few more guys come off. Rick Struggle goes, there's Xavier Worthy. I think our guy is still out there, and New Orleans comes back into play. Could we trade up with them? And that's a possibility here. Using the third from next year to get back up. Could we get a pick in return? Probably not. And if that's all that we have to do, depending on what the Raiders do right here, it could be worth it. So I'm going to offer this trade, and we get it done. And we're going to see what the Raiders go with Michael Penix. I think this could be their first-round pick, not necessarily their second. And it leaves us in the situation now that I think we have what we were looking for, and we can bring Kingsley in as a second-round pick. Now, we still have 95. We have a long way to go now, but we've gotten two scenarios done that we have players of interest at both positions. And as we let this tick, we're down past where we would have been. I think it's very clear that the tackle volume is being more in these mock drafts. Will the league necessarily do that? I'm not 100% certain. My gut tells me the league's going to be a little bit more forthcoming in not going hog wild on the offensive. Now we come back, and unfortunately, Dominic Puni went one pick behind us. He was a guy that I had in mind here for this pick, but he's gone. Not much that we can do about it. So we're going to survey the top of the list here for them. And again, I'm always going to be going back to what we have on our lists, because what we've put in is, I think, the best way to go about balancing objectivity with the ability to go to the next level in terms of the player jumping in. Now, what's interesting is we got offered a trade by the Chargers of all teams. Not really going to be all over that. I might take them for 110, but they're not going to do that, and I don't blame them a bit. I'm not going back to 126, so that's kind of out. So I think we're on the board here. We're going to take the best player for us, and with the top, I'm going to double check tackle just to make sure. Yep, nobody slipped through the cracks. Tight ends here. Eric Alda, I know he's an Iowa tight end. Doesn't do it for me. I think we're better off coming back here on day 3 and getting another backup tight end. You guys know how I feel about running back. I'm not there yet. I can't make that selection yet. So it comes down to the interior guys. It comes down to the edges. What can we bolster? What can we help while Charles Omenihu's out? What can we do to help him along? And again, most of these are going to be day 3 guys. We're at the end of the third. So who slips in? Could it be a corner? Jaron Jones is an interesting guy. DJ James has some solid film as well. I don't think either of them are really worth this pick. So it has to take him back to, are we going to look at, say, a Brendan Rice? Are we going to look at an interior player on the offensive line possibly? Bo Limmer? I don't know. The guy that I don't want to let go to 131 is my guy Cowling. He is one of my dudes, and I do think you can see he's starting to climb a little bit in ADP because I think he can make an impact. Now, we could trade back again, but that's not going to get it done for me. So I think what we'll do is we'll take the best wide receiver available, make that selection to continue down that path. And I like the idea of Brendan Rice in Kansas City. We're going to have to see if that's the way that it actually works out and if he can foist his way onto the roster. With Kadarius Toney practicing with Patrick Mahomes and Hollywood down in Texas, you hope that that's a ray of sunshine that KT can get himself back into shape to actually contribute to this team. But I don't know if that can be counted on. And between KT and his question marks and Rashee Rice right now and his question marks, I think we have to be prepared that you got to add more firepower to this group. Now, there's Remigio that's coming back. I know that people are excited about Justin Ross. I'm not sure if he can break onto the roster yet. So more wide receiver depth, I think, is called for. Now, as we get into day 3 here, we're looking at guys that are going to need some development. I think what it comes down to is who's the best value. I'm not a huge fan of Trevor King, and I don't think that I would bring him into this roster, to tell you the truth. Sinnott we've looked at before. Braylon Allen I like as a running back. Shipley I like as a running back. It's still a little early for me on there, and I think neither of them can thwart Muhammad Kamara. You've seen me take him before, but in this situation, it just, again, it is a no-brainer given where he sits. The Chiefs are going to want to add depth. BJ Thompson type guys that need a year, need to come in to compete, but the more you can do, the more they're going to like you. There is a distinct possibility that Kamara is a guy that they do like, between the length and the power and the ability to play a Mike Danna role, which is inside and outside. I do think he's somebody that they will look at. Now we get back on the clock at 1:59, and now it's about raising the floor. It's not about the ceiling and pressing into, who can help you win playoff games. There's an offer to move back a few places. They don't want to give us 201 or 205. They want to do it for 249. It's not much of a payment, Lions. So I think you got to learn how to trade first. And this becomes very, very easy to me once I scroll down just once. The single most value in this draft could very well be a guard from Michigan. Much like Trey Smith was when he fell down boards because of his medical condition, Zach Zinter is falling down boards because of his medical condition. He should have been, without the tib-fib injury, which it was significant, I do have to admit, without that, he'd have been a second-round player. And to be able to grab him at 159, I think that's a miraculous value. And we're going to snatch that up faster than anybody else can say sneeze, because he is a guy that in the future can fill in anywhere. He can be a starter at all three interior positions, in my opinion. I do like his running mate, Drake Nugent. Not that the Chiefs need a center, because I do think Creed Humphrey will be here for the very long term. We're back on the clock at 173 after watching a couple of guys go off, Walter Rouse being one of them, Miles Murphy. I think the Chiefs have had some contact with. Hopefully my mouse will stay in gear here so that we can finish this. And what we're looking for now is continued development. Guys that can raise the floor of what goes on the field. Bo Braid is one of them. I think he's a solid addition here. I also think that he is not the athlete of two other guys that I did see here, and that one being Ryan Watts, another being Tip Raymond. And Jeremiah Pritchett is really, really interesting as well. So I like all three of those guys. I've gone with Watts before a couple of times. You've seen me pick Tip Raymond. So I think Pritchett's the guy that we're going to go with here and take the value. I think you want to keep that pipeline full at cornerback. And so I like the addition here. Bring somebody in that you feel can grow into another backup that can then grow into a starter. As we continue to base the defense around Trent McDuffie in the secondary, I think that's the way forward. Now, Justin Reed, I think, upped his value last season. I think he'll do it again. I expected extension for him at this point, but I do think that Braid would be an interesting selection, a guy that you could put some thought into developing had they stayed at at safety at that last pick. Now we're at our last pick, 220 on the board here. And I do like Bortolini. He is a zone guy in my mind. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to like him in both blocking schemes. Just looking down the list here to see who's available. A couple of guys stand out to me. I do think Kenny Logan is a guy that you could see in Kansas City as a UDFA. I'm not sure he's going to get drafted. If he did, it would be around this range here in the 7th round. I think the guy that stands out to me the most right here is going to be CJ Hansen or Dominic Hampton. There are guys that are graded higher, Bortolini being one of them. But these two guys fit. Hansen is an athletic guard that I think could snap if asked. He can definitely fill in on the interior, plays a little bit more like Tooney than he does like Trey. But with Zinter being a right guard and would fill in for Trey if they weren't able to reach a contract extension, I think Hansen could be a really interesting guy there too. There's some thought that these Ivy League guys are going to be able to contribute a little bit more, guys that play against the Ivy League. Hampton is a borderline draft pick that I do think the Chiefs could look at in UDFA land. And maybe that means they want to take him here so they don't have to press there. So of the two, given that we landed Zinter, which is just a great pick, I think we'll go Hampton. We'll round out this draft and call it a success, because when you see the end here, I'm going to feel like we got a lot done. Enough to make us feel like the end product is what we were looking for. That's what I've been trying to get to, and I think that we've done a good job. We can probably refill that too as we look at the draft guide, as we compare all the grades that PFF has versus what we have in our draft guide. I think you're going to see that come to fruition, and we're going to be pretty happy with the result. We'll let PFF try to do its thing here and see if it can actually complete this draft. Thank you. It didn't like that we went after Kingsley and passed on Chris Braswell, but Chris Braswell is overrated on this roster here. So we end up with Adonai Mitchell, get some firepower right into the offense. First thing, to go with Hollywood. We'll see what happens with Rasheed and go from there. Kingsley Sumamataya comes in to push Wanya Morris. Can do a little bit of everything. I think could help on the interior as well, but definitely is there to compete with Wanya Morris. Brandon Rice comes in to shore up the size factor in the wide receiver room, give them a little bit of burst there, and a guy that, quite frankly, I don't feel has reached the top of his upside. And I love the concept of seeing him grow, and his dad's presence in Kansas City, I think, would be great to see. Then we come back with Muhammad Kamara in round 4, a guy that's going to help fill the gap with Charles Omenihu, will help push Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and I think we'll provide some snaps inside eventually as well in a role very similar to Mike Dana. Zach Zinter to steal the draft, just like they did a couple of years ago on the interior at guard, will be easy to see the fruition of once he gets onto the field fully healthy. Then Nehemiah Pritchett comes in, give us some special teams work, eventually can develop, same with Dominique Hampton. I think that gives us, I like it. I don't really care if PFF does, but they like it decent enough. We're going to go with that. And in the end, we got it done for the Kansas City Chiefs in a way that helps this team get better. And that's what we were trying to do. So thank you for bearing with me, and apologies for a little bit of the mess ups over the weekend. I had to go under the knife here, had surgery early, just before the weekend, and I'm just still playing a little bit of catch up. So I appreciate you guys. Keep it up. Keep your support coming. We appreciate you, and we honestly couldn't do this every day, all the time without you. So thank you very, very much. If you like this one, let me know. Again, got it done, I think, with the top 2 picks. I had to move around to give something up from the future, but I think that's the way that it may go when it comes down to draft night. And we will be live for you here on draft night all night long for the first round and the second round and the third round. Day 3, we're going to be in and out and have multiple streams to give you an idea of what's going on. So don't miss it. Just like every year, we're going to have you covered. Get the draft guide. It's going to help you figure out exactly what you're hoping for and what maybe you disagree with me about in trying to get the best players for Kansas City and get it done. This is what you're going to get when you get the athletic matrix and the draft guide. And I can't be prouder of it with all the guys' contributions this year and the way that we've come along. For those of you asking why Amarius Mims is so heavily touted, it is very much because of his ability to not give up pressures. And I think that's really where it comes down to. He was number 1 this season in clean pocket protection, and his percentage. A lot there to get in the draft guide. It's at rogueapc.com, and you can get there right now from the link down below. Use the code RGR to get yourself that discount. I hope that you guys will consider that. And thanks for watching tonight. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. We're live tomorrow night, Q&A, just like always. So do not miss it. We